each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. The husband must fulfill his marital duty to his wife with good will and kindness, and likewise the wife to her husband. The wife does not have exclusive authority over her own body, but the husband shares with her, and likewise the husband does not have exclusive authority over his body. 1 Corinthians 7. I gotta drink some tea off of that. That was a powerful scripture. Chapter I might say. Did you guys enjoy that? perspective, does the law not endorse the same principles? For it is written in the law of Moses, you shall not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain, to keep it from eating the grain. Is it only from oxen that God cares? Or does he speak entirely for our sake? Yes, it is written for our sake. The plowman ought to plow in hope, and the thresher to thresh in hope furnished and equipped us, upon whom the ends of the ages have come. Therefore, let the one who thinks he stands firm, immune to temptation, being overconfident and self-righteous, take care that he does not fall into sin and condemnation, nor temptation, regardless of its source, has overtaken or enticed you that is not common to human experience, nor is any temptation unusual we will not be condemned to eternal punishment along with the world. So then, my brothers and sisters, when you come together to eat the Lord's Supper, wait for another and see to it that no one is left out. If anyone is too hungry to wait, let him eat at home, so that you will not come together for judgment on yourselves. About the remaining matters of which I was informed, I will take care of them when I come. Okay. Chapter 12. The use of spiritual gifts. Holy. Now about the spiritual gifts. The special endowments given by the Holy Spirit. Brothers and sisters, I do not want you to be ununiformed. You know that when you were passions, you were led off after speechless idols. However, you were led off whether by impulse or habit. Therefore, I want you to know that no one speaking by the power and influence of the Spirit of God can say, Jesus be cursed. And no one can say, Jesus is my Lord, except by the power and influence of the Holy Spirit. Now there are distinctive varieties of special gifts, special abilities given by the grace and extraordinary power of the Holy Spirit operating in believers, but it is the same Spirit who grants them and empowers believers. And there are distinctive varieties of ministries and service, but it is the same Lord who is served, and there are distinctive ways of working to accomplish things, but it is the same God who produces all things in all believers, inspiring, energizing, and empowering them. But to each one is given the manifestation of the Spirit illumination, and the enabling of the Holy Spirit for the common good. To one is given through the Holy Spirit the power to speak the message of wisdom, and to another the power to express the word of knowledge and understanding according to the same Spirit. To another, wonder-working faith is given by the same Holy Spirit, and to another the extraordinary gifts of healing by the one Spirit, and to another the working of miracles, and to another prophecy, foretelling the future, speaking a new message from God to the people, and to another discernment of spirits, the ability to distinguish sound, godly doctrine from the deceptive doctrine of men made religious and cults, to another various kinds of unknown tongues, and to another interpretation of tongues. All these things, the gifts, the achievements, the abilities, the empowering are brought about by one and the same Holy Spirit, distributing to each one individually just as he chooses. For just as the body is one and yet has many parts, and all the parts, though many, from only one body, so it is with Christ. For by one Holy Spirit we were all baptized into one body, spiritually transformed, united together, whether Jews or Greeks, Gentiles, slaves or free, and we were all made to drink of one Holy Spirit, since the same Holy Spirit fills each life. But the whole human body does not consist of one part, but of many limbs and organs. If the foot says, because I am not a hand, I am not a part of the body, is it not on the contrary still a part of the body? If the ear says, because I am not an eye, I am not a part of the body, is it not on the contrary still part of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where would the hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, what would the sense of smell parts may have the same concern for one another, and if one member suffers, all the parts share the suffering. If one member is honored, all rejoice with it. Now you collectively are Christ's body, and individually you are members of it, each with his own special purpose and function. So God has anointed and placed in the church for his own use. First apostles, chosen by Christ. Second prophets, those who foretell the future. does not understand what my spirit is praying, then what am I to do? I will pray with the mind, with the spirit, by the Holy Spirit that is within me, and I will pray with the mind using words I understand. I was saying with the spirit, by the Holy Spirit that is within me, and I was saying with the mind using words I understand. Otherwise, if you bless and give thanks to God in the spirit only, how will any outsider or someone who is not gifted in spiritual matters say amen of agreement to your thanksgiving? Since he does not know what you are saying, you are giving things well enough in a way that God is glorified. But the other person who does not understand you is not edified and spiritually strengthened, since he cannot join in your thanksgiving. I thank God that I speak in unknown tongues more than all of you. Nevertheless, in public worship, I would rather say 5 understandable words in order to instruct others than 10,000 words in a tongue which others cannot understand. Okay, instructions for the church. Brothers and sisters, do not be children, immature, childlike in your thinking. Be infants in matters of evil, completely innocent and inexperienced. But in your minds be mature adults. It is written in the law, by men of strange tongues and by the lips of foreigners, I will speak to this people, and not even then will they listen to me, says the Lord. Therefore, unknown tongues are meant for a supernatural sign, not to believers, but to unbelievers who might be receptive, while prophesied, foretelling the future, speaking a new message from God to the people, is not for unbelievers, but for believers. So then, if the whole church gathers together and all of you speak in unknown tongues, and outsiders or those who are not gifted in spiritual matters or unbelievers come in, will they not say that you are out of your mind? But if all prophesy, foretelling the future, speaking a new message from God to the people, and an unbeliever or outside comes in, he is convicted of his sins by all, and he is called to account by all, because he can understand what is being said. The secrets of his hearts are laid bare, and so falling on his face, he will worship God, declaring that God is ruling among you. What then is the right course of believers? When you meet together, each one has a psalm, a teaching, a revelation, disclosure of special knowledge, a tongue, or an interpretation. Let everything be constructed and edifying and done for the good of all the church. If anyone speaks in a tongue, it should be limited to 2 or at the most 3, and each one speaking in turn. And one must interpret what is said. But if there is no one to interpret, the one who wishes to speak in a tongue must keep silent in church, as inspired by the Holy Spirit, while the rest pay attention and wait carefully what is said. But if an inspired revelation is made to another who is seated, then the first one must be silent. For in this way you can all prophesy one by one. My bone cracked. So that everyone must be instructed, and everyone may be encouraged. For the spirits